Hey everyone, in today's Ramble video for Eve Echoes, we're going to be talking about Cobalt Edge. So, for those of you that are unfamiliar with my Ramble videos, they are completely unscripted. I have a few bullet points on the side on the computer screen, so if I look away from the camera like this way, that's me looking at the bullet points on the screen, so that I actually try to keep on track. So, what are we talking about with Cobalt Edge? Well, for today's video, we're going to be talking about what you can do in Cobalt Edge and what you might want to do to mitigate certain risks in there at the same time. As I said, this is going to be quite rambly. There's no real structure to these videos, and all that you're going to see up on screen, apart from my lovely face, which I'm currently experimenting with the green screen on. By the way, I spent about half an hour just playing with the green screen, trying to get it to work so that I didn't have a green haze or a green fog all around me. It's a lot more work than you'd think. But anyway, I think I've already lost track anyway, so this is a good start to the video. But anyway, let's get into the video, shall we? Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. What else is on screen is just going to be background footage related to whatever part of the Cobalt Edge topic I'm on. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one when it gets around to editing. But anyway, first and foremost, what can we do in Cobalt Edge? Well, the first and most easy thing to do in there, as with pretty much anywhere in the game, is mining. Yes, we can mine in Cobalt Edge, and there is the C70 gas, which is exclusive to the Cobalt Edge area, as well as your other gases C50 and C60, which can be found anywhere else anyway. They're not particularly exclusive, but the C70 stuff is. And if you happen to be a proud Venture owner, it is probably the best place to go and fly a Venture right now, because that C70 is worth cherry picking. It is most definitely worth cherry picking. And if you have access to a Citadel inside of Cobalt Edge, where you can compress or refine it, whatever the wording is for the C70 gas, it's a perfect place to, get it all condensed down and then transport it out in a hauling ship. But it is worth mentioning a few things about mining in Cobalt Edge. First and foremost, you're 100% vulnerable all of the time. Because there is no local chat, or well, there is technically a local chat, but there isn't a local player window. So you never know if there's somebody on the hunt, on the prowl, in the area, wanting to gun you down. Fitting a cloak is just completely worthless. I don't even know why, and you'll see this in the footage right next to me right now. I don't even know why I still have a cloak fitted to my cover tattoo, because it is completely worthless in Cobalt Edge. If somebody lands on grid with me, my cloak is going to be useless, because they're going to see that I'm there, and I'm going to be stuck there until they get close enough to decloak me. If I cloak before they see exactly where I am, they know I'm there. They're just going to keep on flying in circles, bouncing off of different rocks until they see me. Or they give up if I'm exceptionally lucky. Which, let's be honest, I probably wouldn't be that lucky, would I? So cloaks will not help. The only forms of defence that you can have when you're out mining is either have somebody with you. Have somebody with you. They could be out in the open in a badass battleship like a Bolgorn to defend you. Or they could be cloaked up. You could have a couple of friends cloaked up in Stratioses, just waiting for somebody to try and pick on you as prey, only for them to become the prey. Like there's always a bigger fish sort of moment. So there is that. Alternatively, if you are going to be mining solo and there's not going to be anyone around to help you, then warp stability. It's the only thing you've got going for you. The odds of somebody roaming around in Cobalt Edge in a destroyer interdictor or cruiser interdictor are significantly lower than them flying something else. Statistically, you're probably best off just lining all of your low slots with warp stability stuff. Especially if you're a Venture pilot. If you're a Cover to 2 pilot that has tons and tons of modules with regards to tanking and, you can fight off certain ships, then feel free, do it. But if you're a lowly little Venture pilot, you can't take any heat, just warp stability all the way. That's the best way to go about it. And another thing that's worth mentioning for venture pilots is, I'm going to keep these glasses on, lower insurance points and the ability to cherry pick. Whereas cover tattoos, you can't cherry pick. You're probably going to get a full hold of about 20 mils worth of ISK. Venture pilots could probably expect a lot more just from cherry picking that C70 gas. And of course, low insurance points. When your ship eventually gets destroyed, and it will in Cobalt Edge, your ship will get destroyed in there. The Venture is going to be a lot easier to insure than a Cover Tattoo. A lot easier to replace. And yeah, it is also worth mentioning, just in case nobody was aware of this, because at first you could do this. Insurance, you can no longer claim a ship inside of Cobalt Edge. So when you've lost a ship, you can't just go back to the station within Cobalt Edge and reclaim your ship with insurance. You have to first reclaim your ship with insurance in HiSec itself and then fly it into Cobalt Edge and risk losing it on the way into Cobalt Edge. So Ventures, a lot cheaper to replace, and the odds are that you're going to be losing ships a lot more often than you would elsewhere in nullsec. This is a rambly video. I didn't mean to get onto insurance there. It's not even on my notes. But that's what we get with a Ramble video. Definitely unscripted. In fact, you should see the amount of cuts that I had to make just to get into the intro for this video. Because again, even the intro is not scripted. I must have made 7 or 8 bloopers. If I ever do some kind of premium access for this channel, and I don't even know how I'd do it yet, but those bloopers would definitely be a good start. Anyway, let's move on to ratting. So, next up with ratting, rats have insane E-War. That is the first thing you need to know if you're going in there to do a bit of ratting in Cobalt Edge. Lots and lots of insane E-War. Let's get myself a drink because talking tends to dry up the voice. We saw that with Taylor Rick at the weekend with the Echoes of New Eden podcast. He could barely speak towards the end. And I've felt like that on a few occasions when doing these videos. But anyway, so yeah, rats have insane amounts of E-War. Whether that be warp scrambling, neutralizers, tracking disruptors, you name it, they've probably got it. And a combination of all of that with their increased tracking capabilities, the fact that they're either smaller or faster, I don't know which, that makes them harder to hit. Yeah, you're going to have a much, much harder time actually clearing an anomaly inside of Cobalt Edge than you would elsewhere in nullsec. Even the small anomalies are difficult. There have been multiple occasions where, even with my Bolgorn, that I was comfortably able to run larges in nullsec historically. Even in that thing, I can struggle sometimes if I don't land in the perfect spot to actually run smalls. I've probably gotten down to about 40% armour at one point when the rats just dropped right on top of me and I didn't really have an opportunity to control range or out like that. So yeah, even the small anomalies are difficult, and you are 100% vulnerable to gankers. So do not go into Cobalt Edge in your bling-fitted shiny ships with no support whatsoever. If you're going to go bling, make sure you've got friends nearby to help you, because again, your ship is going to go boom at some point. We can't control that, it just will. So you're just going to want to mitigate your losses as much as you can there. So moving on, what do we get for destroying the NPCs over there? This is where we have the exclusive indie materials, which again, I don't have the actual names for them on hand. See if I can remember them. Okay, no, I cannot remember them right now, but odds are it'll pop up somewhere in the video that I've got at the moment. But yeah, there are exclusive materials inside of Cobalt Edge. Your ticks, you can expect to be between, 12 and 15 mil. I think that's roughly what I've been expecting inside of Cobalt Edge. So not the 20 to 30 mil that you might be able to expect in nullsec. But you get that back quite easily in the loot that you get inside of Cobalt Edge. And it is worth remembering that in Cobalt Edge you don't ever have to look at local, because local is kind of worthless. All it is a chat window. You can't see who's in the area. So in one respect it's kind of therapeutic going into Cobalt Edge, because you don't have to look at local. You can actually take your eyes away from that side of the screen. I never really thought about it like that. But anyway, yeah, don't expect large ticks. You're here for the loot. That's literally what I wrote on my bullet points. So what do we have next? We have exploration, as we do with pretty much anywhere in the game except for high sec, because is it even worth doing exploration in high sec? I've never done it myself. I can't expect that you'd get much in the way of rewards. But anyway, let's not go too far off the topic. NPCs can and will defend some of the sites. I have had sites with NPCs actively defending them, and it's probably best described as half a small anomaly when it comes to the number of NPCs there. So they can still be quite tough. If you're exploring in a Magnate Covert Ops or a Magnate Explorer or any of the other basic frigates, you're probably going to have an impossible time killing off these rats. You're most likely going to find yourself just speeding the hell out of there and then just warping off and cloaking up and coming back in something bigger to clear the rats. And if you don't have a station to dock up in the area, to be able to swap into a PvE ship, clear them, come back in an exploration ship and open all the containers, it's not going to be worth doing it. So if you want to do exploration in Cobalt Edge and you don't have anywhere to dock up and reship, you're going to want to go in something a bit more bulky, like let's say the Stratios. There's a reason why the cost of the Stratios and the demand for it went sky high shortly after Cobalt Edge dropped. Because of that. It is one of the few only viable ships to do exploration in Cobalt Edge. Yes, there are other ships that you can do exploration with in there, but the Stratios is just hands down the best. One moment, please. Yeah, bit more water there. So, yeah. Magnates are a bit of a no-no in Cobalt Edge. Yes, you can use them, but you're not really going to get far with them. Moving along, we have the analyzers and decoders, assuming I got the names right when I was typing this up at work during my break time. When you are trying to open these containers inside of Cobalt Edge, the odds of them actually being able for you to open and loot are a lot lower. Now, it doesn't actually affect the odds on your modules. As I understand it, the odds are always the same. It's the fact that you get fewer attempts. As you'll see in this video at some point, you're probably going to see that you start off with one of them at maybe 4 or 5 attempts. 4 or 5 attempts isn't much. And if you're particularly unlucky, you can get through an entire site without being able to open a single container because they all go boom on you. That's not happened to me yet. I've only had a few go boom on me with 553 skills. Or maybe 554, I don't know. I think it's 553 still for this particular character, but I probably need to raise it a little bit and maybe invest in the nanocore to get the success rate up a little bit higher. Also worth noting, when you're slow boating between these different containers, you are vulnerable. Anybody can swoop in and attack you. So what you'll notice me doing occasionally in this video is cloaking up whilst I'm slow boating between containers, because I tend to run an afterburner, not a micro warp drive. Because as you'll see in the video, I'm running I think it's the Voyage nanocore. It's the one where you've got that micro jump drive ejector button, whatever you call it, that gives yourself a temporary speed boost. So whenever I activate that, I am going to be assuming that I'm scrambled and the micro warp drive's not working. So I'll be pairing that with the afterburner that I have fitted instead as the quick getaway to get out of scramble range to then be able to warp away and cloak. Again, I don't know why I explained that just then because that's kind of unrelated, but hey ho. Feel free to share your experiences in the comments section, because I seem to be doing a fair bit of that in this Ramble video. So, moving on. One thing that is worth noting about exploration, anywhere else in the game, you can go and explore as much as you want. You could explore a system, a constellation, an entire region. You get to really explore. Only thing is, in Cobalt Edge, you'll have a single constellation of maybe 7 or 8 systems, depending on which constellation you've gotten into. Once you've fully explored that constellation, that's it until the end of the hour, when the spawns reset and you have the chance of more spawning in that constellation. The only thing you can do then is leave the constellation, go back into Lowsec, and find another entry point into a different constellation. So there's not much you can do for exploration inside of Cobalt Edge, which is it can be a good thing or a bad thing. If you like short form content and you only log in for 20 to 30 minutes at a time, then it's not really a problem for you, because you can explore that entire constellation in that time and run a couple of sites. But if you're wanting to go and explore for 2 hours straight, Cobalt Edge might not be the best place for you. It's this late into the video that I've just realised the microphone is like 3 times further away from me than usual. That's going to mean a little bit more trickery in editing. Hopefully the final product will come out same as usual. Yeah, I'm just looking at the green screen right now and on the preview at the moment, and I'm really hoping that I don't end up with a green haze or fog around me when I edit this video. If this video goes live and you can't see me talking in the bottom left, that's because I really messed up with the green screen and couldn't get a clean way of putting this all up on screen. There's a reason why I'm doing it like this. I want to be able to retrospectively, during editing, put the background footage behind me, instead of having it all queued up, ready to go in OBS. It's just me experimenting, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. But yeah, so let's move on to the next topic, which is PvP. This is an area where, as you guys might expect, I probably don't have a massive amount of experience, but there's still enough for me to talk about here. So yeah, it's a lot emptier in Cobalt Edge. There are fewer players, fewer structures. There isn't anywhere near as much to hit, especially structures. But that said, nobody knows you're there. You can pick your targets. So miners have 0 warning that you're coming. But of course you have no way of knowing if they have friends cloaked up around them. It's kind of a risk that you're going to take when you decloak to attack them. But at the same time, they're taking a risk just being there mining. It's an interesting game of dice there. As I said, nobody knows that you're there until you reveal yourself, until you decloak. You can reveal that you're there by typing in local and just typing something silly like boo. You know, you could just be a creep and do that. I'd be tempted to do that every so often, actually. Just jump into a system, say boo in local, and then just jump to the next system along and do something there and let them just, you know. That'd be quite fun, actually. I wouldn't do PvP, but if you ever see Hail Nora just jump into a Cobalt Edge system and say boo, don't worry, I'm not coming for you. I'm just trying to scare you, because that's the sort of thing I'd do. Let us know in the comments section if there's something that you'd do in Cobalt Edge, just to mess with people's minds, I guess. Yeah, PvE ships. As I explained earlier with my Balgorn that I've taken into small anomalies, when I first took it into Cobalt Edge, and bearing in mind I had completely different rigs back then, it was all laser rigs, I really struggled with the small anomalies. I can do them quite comfortably now and have plenty of tanking left over to deal with an interceptor or whatever jumps me. Again, if a battleship jumps me, then it's game over, I guess. But yeah, you'll find a lot of players, if they're solo ratting in Cobalt Edge, they might be punching just a little bit too much above their weight and really treading that fine line. If you come in and swoop in and start dealing 2000 DPS on top of whatever the rats are doing right now, their tank is probably going to break. Of course, those rats will turn on you and start shooting you, and warp scrambling you, tracking disruptor, all of that. So you have to be prepared. These rats are not just going to deal damage, they're really going to mess with your day. So keep that in mind. And lastly, we have hauling. This is something that historically in EVE, until Cobalt Edge came along, hauling was kind of a bit on and off. We still have a purpose for it with bigger ships like freighters, because, well, yeah, our freighters can move such large volumes, and during, say, mass evacuations or moving in or mass buyouts in Jita or mass sellouts in Jita, whatever it may be, freighters have a purpose. But for the most part, most of us just AFK move in interceptors. We buy whatever modules we want, a couple of building materials, stuff like that. Just load it into an interceptor, fly straight across the map whilst we're at work, or we've gone to sleep, or we're doing the pots or whatever. Log back into the game when we can. Yeah, our stuff is where we want it to be, move along. But thanks to things like the fact that we have to jump through a wormhole to get into Cobalt Edge, thanks to the fact that there is no dormant realm insurance available to be claimed inside of Cobalt Edge itself, things have to be moved into Cobalt Edge by players, which means there are hauling opportunities. So you can, within your corp at least, because there's not going to be much in the way of actual market transactions inside of Cobalt Edge, but you can make a pretty good amount of gameplay out of just moving things in and out of Cobalt Edge for people. And it's not risk-free. When you jump into the Cobalt Edge tunnel, the wormhole tunnel, whatever you want to call it, there are occasionally rats in there that can shoot, and players in there as well that might also choose to shoot you. Now, you get a temporary immunity when you jump into the wormhole tunnel, and if your ship is fast enough, you can get to the other side before the immunity expires. You can also just, inside of that immunity time, just activate your MWD and cloak at the same time and propel yourself in a random direction that no one can predict, and then just slow boat your way to the other side in a cloak. But so it's easy enough inside of the tunnel, moving around. But the other ends of the tunnels, when you jump out of the wormhole in nullsec, well, Cobalt Edge, sorry, or lowsec, those are a whole other story. Because unlike Stargates, you don't land cloaked. You don't land with this invulnerability, or at least I haven't noticed it in the few times that I moved through. It's been probably a month and a half, I guess, maybe a month, since I last actually made that transition, because I moved all of my ships in one go. So I wasn't actively paying attention, but from what I remember, you don't have an immunity or temporary cloak when you jump through these wormholes. So you're jumping blind into Cobalt Edge. There could be a gate camp or wormhole camp just waiting to gank you when you jump into Cobalt Edge or lowsec. So you're going to need scouts. You're going to need somebody to protect you, maybe. It's not something that you could just do just completely solo and expect to be 100% safe. So that is something that is worth bearing in mind. But anyway, I think that is probably enough chitter-chatter, enough rambling for this particular video. The recording at the moment is about 24 minutes long. I'm probably going to be cutting a tiny bit because there's a couple of little mistakes I made in there. But yeah, that is a ramble video for you guys. Yeah, it's not very often I do these. As I said, this is the first time I've tried a ramble video with the green screen up, with me trying to retrospectively put background footage onto the background with me already recorded on a green screen. But we'll see how the editing bit goes. Thanks again for listening, everyone. If you found this video at all useful, feel free to share it with your friends, hit the like button, comment if there's anything you'd like to share about your experiences in Cobalt Edge. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, feel free to hit that subscribe button. But anyway, until the next video, I bid you fly casual in New Eden.